Your air conditioner has been running since 9 this morning. It is 2 in the afternoon. The thermostat in your hallway says 76, but you set it to 68 3 hours ago, and it has not gotten there, and it is not going to. Above your head, in a space you have not climbed into since you bought the house, the temperature right now is 142 degrees. The plywood of your roof deck is hot enough to burn the back of your hand, and every minute it sits up there cooking, your electric meter is spinning, and somebody in an office building 4 states away is getting a little bit richer. My name is Elias Yoda. I am Amish. I live on a farm my grandfather built in 1934, and I have never paid an electric bill in my life. Not one. Not ever. And the upstairs bedroom where my wife and I sleep on the hottest night of August, with the sun beating that roof at 140 degrees all day long, stays cooler than yours does with $3,000 of machinery fighting for it. I want to tell you why. I am going to tell you what my grandfather built into this house, what his grandfather built into the house before that, what the carpenters in my community still build into every new home we raise. And I am going to tell you the part that should make you angry, which is that none of this is a secret. None of it. It is written down. It has been written down for 200 years. You were just never told. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to look for in your own attic this weekend. You will know what costs $4 to fix, and you will know why the man who sold you your last roof did not mention any of it. Stay with me. The first thing you have to understand is that your attic is lying to you about what it is for. You think of it as part of your house. It is not. In a house built properly, the way my grandfather built this one, the attic is what we call a buffer. It is the space that takes the beating. The sun hits the roof gets hot, the attic catches all of that heat, and then it lets it go. It hands the heat back to the sky before it can come down into the rooms where you sleep. That is the whole job of an attic, to breathe the heat out. But somewhere around the time my own father was a young man, he tells me it was the late 1960s, the English builders, and forgive me, that is just what we call folks outside our community, no disrespect in it, the English builders decided they were going to do it different. They sealed the attic up. They stuffed it full of pink insulation. They cut 2 small vents in the gable ends, maybe a strip down the ridge, and they called it good. Then they sold the homeowner a bigger air conditioner to make up for the heat that had nowhere to go. That is the trade they made for you, without asking. The attic stopped being a buffer. It became a furnace. And the furnace sits on top of your bedroom from 10 in the morning until 10 at night, radiating heat down through your ceiling, into your sheets, into the walls of your children's rooms. Your air conditioner is not cooling your house. It is fighting a furnace your builder installed on top of it. We never made that mistake. We could not. We had no air conditioner to fall back on. So every choice in our building had to work on its own merits, in the real heat, with no machine to hide behind. The piece of our houses you have probably seen and never understood is the little tower on top of the roof. The English call it a cupola. We have always just called it the roof box or the lantern, depending on what part of Pennsylvania your family came from. Mine came from the Palatinate, in what is now southwestern Germany, in 1838. My great-great-grandfather Yoda crossed the ocean with a Bible, a chest of carpenter's tools, and the knowledge of how to build a house that would not kill his children in August. The roof box looks decorative. On the fancy houses you see now, the ones in subdivisions with the 4-car garages, the little wooden tower on top of the roof is purely for show. It is nailed shut. It is filled with foam. It is a costume. On a real one, on the kind my grandfather built, the roof box is the engine of the whole house. Here is what it does. Hot air rises. That is not a religious claim or a folk saying. That is just physics. Anywhere on earth, hot air goes up. In a sealed attic, the hot air rises and then has nowhere to go, so it sits there pressing down on your ceiling. In a house with a working roof box, the hot air rises, climbs up through the open shaft inside the box, and exits through louvered slats on all 4 sides. But that is only half of it. The half that matters more is what happens at the bottom. When that column of hot air leaves, it pulls cooler air in behind it, through the lower windows, through the cellar door, through any opening near the ground. The whole house starts to move. The whole house starts to breathe. The engineers have a name for it. They call it the stack effect, or buoyancy-driven ventilation, and you can find papers about it in any university library written by serious men with letters after their names. We just call it building a house right. I went up into the attic of this farmhouse last August on the hottest day of the summer. It was 93 degrees outside. The attic, which has a working roof box on it that my grandfather built 92 years ago, was 78 degrees. 78. The roof deck above my head was hot enough you could not hold your palm against it. The air in the attic was cool enough I did not break a sweat standing up there. Across the road, my neighbor's house, built in 1971, sealed up tight, no roof box, fiberglass bats crammed against the rafters. His attic was 136 degrees. I know because he came over later to ask why his upstairs would not cool down, and I went over with my thermometer. Same day, same sun, same county. 60 degrees of difference. No machinery on my side. Now you are thinking, fine, but I cannot put a tower on my roof this weekend. You are right, you cannot. And that is not what I am going to ask you to do. Because there is something else, and this is the part I almost did not put in this script, because it is the part the building industry would prefer you never heard. Inside the attic of this farmhouse, nailed across the underside of the roof boards where the rafters meet the ridge, there is a long strip of plain white cotton muslin. Not insulation, not vapor barrier. Cotton cloth. The kind you can buy at any fabric store for about $1 a yard. My grandfather put it there. His grandfather put it in the old house. My uncle put strips of it in the barn last spring. We have been doing this for as long as anyone in my community can remember. Here is what it does, and you can test this yourself if you do not believe me. When the sun hits a shingle, the shingle gets hot. The wood of the roof deck underneath that shingle gets hot, and that wood radiates heat downward in a straight line. Insulation in your floor does nothing about it because radiant heat does not travel through air the way regular heat does. Radiant heat goes in a straight line until it hits something, and what it hits is the top side of whatever is below it, including your insulation, your wiring, your ceiling drywall, and eventually your bedroom. The cotton stops it. It absorbs a little moisture from the cool night air. During the day, as the roof above heats up, the cotton releases that moisture slowly. It is the same idea as a wet handkerchief tied around your neck on a hot day. A man who has worked a hayfield in July knows what I mean. The water evaporating off the cloth pulls heat with it. The cotton stays cool. The air just below it stays cool. The radiant heat coming off the roof deck never makes it down to where you are sleeping. 4 yards of cotton muslin will cover the ridge of an average house. $4 at the fabric store. 1 hour of work with a stapler. I am not exaggerating the price. I am not rounding down. $4. Now, you tell me, in a country where the average household pays more than $2,000 a year to cool a house, why is this not in every building manual? Why did your father not know it? Why did the man who re-roofed your house in 2018 not mention it? I will tell you why. Think about who makes money when your attic runs at 140 degrees. The electric company makes money. Every degree of heat that pushes through your ceiling makes your air conditioner work harder. A 3-ton central unit pulls roughly 3,500 watts when it is straining against a hot attic. If your house is fighting that furnace overhead for an extra 4 or 5 hours a day in July and August, you are handing the utility somewhere between $60 and $100 a month that you would not be spending if your attic were doing its job. Multiply that by the 140 million single-family houses in this country, and you are looking at billions of dollars a year in revenue that exists only because the houses cannot breathe. The shingle companies make money. A hot attic destroys shingles from underneath. The asphalt softens. The granules fall off. The seal between the layers fails. A roof that should last 30 years lasts 15. You buy a new roof twice as often as your grandfather did. That is not an accident. The insulation companies make money. The HVAC companies make money. The spray foam companies make money. There is a whole industry built on selling you the cure for a sickness that the same industry installed in your house in the first place. I am not telling you there was a meeting somewhere. I do not believe in that kind of conspiracy. It is something worse than a conspiracy. It is a quiet agreement among everybody who profits to not mention the alternative, to never bring up the cupola, to never sell the cotton, to never explain the stack effect to a homeowner. They do not need to coordinate. They just need to stay quiet, and they have for 50 years. We kept this knowledge in our community because we had to. We were not allowed to forget it. When you cannot plug in an air conditioner, you cannot afford to lose what your grandfather knew. So we wrote it down in the way that matters, not in books, but in houses. Every house we build is a copy of the lesson. The rest of the country forgot because the rest of the country was given a machine to forget with. I want to be useful to you, not just preach at you. So let me tell you exactly what to do in order this weekend. The first thing is your gable vents. Almost every house built in this country between 1940 and 1990 has 2 triangular wooden vents up at the peaks of the short ends of the attic. You have seen them. From the outside, they look like little louvered triangles. From the inside, they should look like daylight. Get a flashlight. Pick a cool morning, early, before the attic heats up. Climb up there and look at those vents from the inside. If you can see clear daylight through them, good. That is what they are supposed to do. If you cannot, and most people cannot, then you have just found the first reason your house has been cooking itself. The screens behind those vents are usually clogged with 30 years of dust, paint, wasp nests, and sometimes loose fill insulation that was blown in by a contractor who did not know any better. I have been in attics where the gable vents were completely sealed over with spray foam by a man who was paid $2,000 by the homeowner to do it, in the name of energy efficiency. He was sealing the house's lungs. Clean them. Pull out the debris with your hands or a shop vacuum. If the screen is rusted, peel it off and staple new aluminum mesh in its place. A roll of aluminum mesh is about $3 at the hardware store. 1/8-inch openings are what you want. Small enough to keep the insects out, big enough that the air moves through. That is step 1. It will take you 20 minutes. Step 2 is the cotton. I told you about the muslin we nail across the underside of the rafters. You can do exactly the same thing in your own attic. 4 yards of plain white cotton muslin, the cheapest kind they sell, and a staple gun. You staple it across the underside of the roof deck where the rafters meet at the ridge in a strip about 2 feet wide running the length of the attic. You do not need to cover the whole roof. You need to break the radiant heat at the hottest point, which is the top. 2 feet of cotton along the ridge is plenty. Do not use treated fabric. Do not use a tarp. Do not use plastic. Plain, untreated cotton. The whole point is that it breathes and holds a little moisture. Plastic does the opposite of what you want. I had an Englisher come to my farm 3 summers ago asking me about this. He went home, stapled muslin across the ridge of his attic in an afternoon, and called me a week later. He said his upstairs bedroom dropped 6 degrees overnight. He said his wife slept under a blanket for the first time in July in 20 years. $6 in materials, 1 afternoon. Step 3 is the night draft, and this is the one most folks skip, which is a shame because it ties the whole thing together. After the sun goes down, when the outside air gets below 80 degrees, and even in the worst part of summer it usually does, late around 10 or 11 o'clock, you open the lowest windows in your house on the side that has been in shade. Not all of them. 2 or 3 on the cool side opened maybe 4 inches. Then go check that those gable vents are clear. Open the attic hatch a crack if you have one. What happens next is what we have been counting on for 200 years. The hot air that is built up in your attic all day climbs up and out through the gable vents. As it leaves, it creates a small, low-pressure zone inside the house. The cool night air gets pulled in through the low windows you opened, and it moves up through the house, through the attic, and out the gable vents in a slow, steady draft. You will feel it. Stand in the hallway between your living room and your stairs around midnight, and you will feel a soft, cool current moving past your ankles. That is your house finally breathing the way it was meant to. By morning, the wood frame of the house, and this is what people miss, the wood itself is a thermal mass, every 2x4 in your walls, has shed most of the heat it absorbed during the day. Your air conditioner, if you still want to run it, starts the day from a much lower baseline. It does not have to fight a furnace anymore. You will see it on your electric bill within 1 billing cycle. 40 minutes of work the first time. Cotton, mesh, a flashlight, a staple gun. $40 in materials at the absolute most, and most of you can do it for under 10. Now I want to tell you the part that goes against everything a modern builder will tell you, because if you do not understand this part, the rest will not work. You have been told to seal your house. Every builder, every energy auditor, every contractor for the last 40 years has been telling homeowners to wrap the building in plastic, foam every gap, caulk every seam, and trap the air inside. And in a controlled laboratory test, with everything else held perfect, that advice gives you a slightly lower heating bill in February. In a real house, in a real August, it cooks you alive. A sealed attic is a heat battery. The roof absorbs heat all day. The wood underneath stores it. And because there is no movement, no breath in and out, the heat just accumulates. Day after day, week after week. By the middle of August, the wooden structure of a sealed attic is radiating into the rooms below it 24 hours a day. It does not cool down at night. It cannot. It has no way to. Our barns are over 100 years old. The hand-hewn beams in this kitchen were cut by my great-grandfather in 1868. The wood is dry. The wood is sound. The wood is sweet-smelling when you sand it. Why? Because the air moves. The barn breathes. The house breathes. Moving air does not rot wood. Moving air does not grow mold. Moving air does not trap moisture. Trapped air does all of those things, and a sealed, modern attic traps air on purpose. The English engineers will tell you that ventilation creates moisture problems. They are wrong, And the proof is in every Amish farmstead in eastern Pennsylvania that has been standing through 200 winters and 200 summers with no central air, no vapor barrier, no plastic wrap, and no problems. If you have spray foam packed against your roof rafters, get it out. If you have a plastic vapor barrier stapled to the underside of your roof deck, take it down. If somebody sealed your gable vents with foam in the name of energy efficiency, cut it out. Undo those three things in that order, and your house will start working the way houses were designed to work, before someone decided to sell you a sealed plastic box and call it a home. There is one more thing I want to share with you before I let you go, because it is the thing my mother taught me when I was 8 years old, standing in the summer kitchen behind our farmhouse with the bread dough rising on the wood counter, and I did not understand what she was doing until I was a grown man with a wife of my own. A summer kitchen, for those of you who have never seen one, is a small separate building behind the main farmhouse. The Pennsylvania Germans built them from at least the 1700s, and you can still find them on old farmsteads all over Lancaster and Berks and Lebanon counties. It is one room with a wood cook stove and a window on the wall opposite the door. The point of it, the obvious point, is that you do your hot cooking in there during summer so you do not heat up the main house. That is the obvious point. The point my mother taught me is not obvious. When she was cooking in the summer kitchen on a hot morning, she would open the door that faced north, and she would open the window on the south wall, and she would tell me to go into the main house and crack open the parlor windows on the shaded side. And then she would light the stove. The stove heat would rise. The heat would exit through the south window. As it left, it would pull air through the open door. That air would come from the main house, through the back porch, through the kitchen door, drawn by the suction of the hot stove pulling its exhaust out through the window above it. She was using the wood stove as a pump, not just to vent the kitchen, to vent the entire farmhouse. The whole building turned into one slow current of moving air, driven by a stove burning maybe 2 armfuls of wood. She would cook bread and stew and pies all morning, and the main house, which was where the babies slept, where the old folks rested in the afternoon, stayed 10 degrees cooler than the air outside. You have a stove in your kitchen right now. You probably have a window above it or near it, and a window somewhere on the opposite side of your house. I am not asking you to cook a meal you do not need, but on a hot evening when the sun has gone down and the outside air is starting to drop, turn one burner of your stove on the lowest setting, just one. Open the window above it 3 inches. Open a window on the opposite end of your house, 3 inches. You have just made the same pump my mother made every morning for 50 years. The small amount of heat you add to the kitchen is nothing compared to the volume of cool evening air that gets pulled through the rest of the house. You will feel it within 20 minutes. The living room will be noticeably cooler. The hallway will have a draft you can feel on your skin. The cost of running one electric burner for 40 minutes is somewhere around 5 cents. 5 cents to cool the house. Every night, all summer. The woman who taught me knew it from her mother, who knew it from her mother, and somewhere back along that line was a great-great-grandmother who carried this knowledge across the ocean from Switzerland in a wagon. They knew. They have always known. And the only reason you do not know is because there is no profit in 5-cent cooling. Now, I know the questions some of you are forming as you listen to this, because my brother runs a small store in town where the English come in and ask, and he tells me what they say. The first question is always about moisture. If you open up your attic and let outside air move through, won't you get mold? Won't you get rot? Won't the humidity ruin the structure? I have already answered this, but it bears saying again. Moving air does not cause moisture problems. Trapped air causes moisture problems. The reason our barns from 1860 are still sound and your 1985 subdivision houses are growing mold in the attic is that ours move and yours do not. Water vapor in moving air goes out. Water vapor in trapped air settles, condenses, and feeds whatever wants to grow on the wood. You are not inviting mold by opening the attic. You are evicting it. The second question is about animals and insects. Bats, squirrels, wasps. I told you already, 1/8-inch aluminum mesh on the inside of every gable vent. $3 at the hardware store. Bats and squirrels cannot get through it. Wasps will not build in a high airflow space because they cannot tolerate the wind. You are protecting the house, not inviting trouble. The third question is the one that makes me sad, and I want to address it plainly. Some of you will tell your contractor what I have said in this video, and your contractor will tell you that I am wrong, that this violates code, that this will void your warranty, that you should not listen to an Amish man on the internet about your house. Listen to me. Passive ventilation is not against code anywhere in the United States. It predates code. Modern building code requires a minimum of 1 square foot of net free vent area for every 300 square feet of attic floor. That is a floor, not a ceiling. You can have more ventilation than that, and you are not in violation of anything. As for warranties, the warranty on your shingles requires adequate ventilation. Increasing it protects the warranty. Sealing the attic, which is what your contractor likely did or recommended, is what threatens it. He has it backwards, and so does the person who taught him. The man telling you not to listen to me is the same man who will sell you a new $5,000 HVAC unit in 3 years when the old one fails from overwork. I am not saying he is dishonest. I am saying he was taught wrong, by people who were taught wrong, by people who were paid to teach wrong. That chain goes back 50 years. You are at the end of it. You do not have to stay there. I want to leave you with something my bishop said to me last fall. We were sitting on his porch after a barn raising, drinking coffee, and a young Englisher who had helped that day asked him why we live the way we live. He thought we were going to talk about religion. The bishop did not talk about religion. He said this. He said, "The English think we reject technology because we are afraid of it. That is not it. We reject technology when it makes us depend on people we do not know, on systems we cannot fix, on companies that do not care if our children live or die. We accept technology when it makes us more capable, more able to take care of our own. The cupola is technology. The gable vent is technology. The summer kitchen is technology. They are just technologies that belong to us. We built them with our hands. They will still work when the lights go out. They are ours." I have thought about that conversation many times since, because the bishop was not just talking about us. He was talking about you, too. He was pointing at what you have lost. You have surrendered the ability to keep your own family cool in your own home, in your own country, and you have surrendered it to a utility company that did not exist when your grandfather built his first house. You pay them $3,000 a year for permission to be comfortable. And it never occurred to most of you that there was anything strange about that arrangement, because you were born into it. You did not forget this knowledge. It was taken from you, slowly, one building code at a time, one sales pitch at a time, one contractor at a time, until you arrived at a house you cannot ventilate, a roof you cannot fix, an attic you have never climbed into, and a bill you cannot question. I am not asking you to live the way I live. I am not asking you to give up your tractor for a horse, or your phone for a letter, or your church for mine. I am asking you to do one thing this weekend. Climb into your attic with a flashlight. Look at your gable vents. Tell me in the comments what you find. Are they clogged? Are they painted shut? Did somebody seal them with foam? What county are you in? How old is your house? I read these comments. The stories you send back are the reason I keep recording. And if what I have said today rings true to you, if you are the kind of person who suspects that real wisdom has been quietly pushed aside so somebody else can sell you the substitute, then come back. The next video I am putting together is about how my grandfather built a root cellar under this farmhouse that holds a steady 54 degrees year-round in January and August both, with no machinery, no electricity, no insulation in the modern sense, using nothing but clay, sand, and the slope of a hillside. The technique goes back to the old country and farther than that. It is the simplest thing in the world once someone shows you. Nobody will show you. I will. I will see you there. Stay cool, stay curious, and remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things that we are only just beginning to remember.